6 p.m. in the Newscast Division, Central Region of Cameroon, same time right here in Akwa Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. First, our major stories. Critics continue to lambast the President of the Constitutional Council over what they consider as lack of neutrality. They have been raining criticism on Magistrate Clement Atangana for taking part in a meeting that culminated on tributes to President Paul Biya and calls for his candidacy in the 2025 presidential election. Away from that, digitalization of the educational system in Cameroon is being confronted by major speed breaks on the ground. Among these challenges are the inability to possess smartphones and the resistance of parents who think these teachers are becoming lazy. Many parents are questioning why teachers have resorted to sending assignments to phones, whereas most of these students are unable to afford these phones or are aware that these students are unable to possess such gadgets, which is they think might be necessary, whereas that's not the case. Those are major stories. You have greater details in the course of this newscast. If you are just joining us, then no, you are watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast, and for presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. The President of the Constitutional Council and the Association of Elites of the Nyong and So Division of the Central Region have embarked on justifying why Clement Atangana was present at the controversial meeting organized by elites of the Nyong and So, during which they called on President Paul Biya to stand against President, an act which has been condemned by many. We have details with Annabella.
Has been making news headlines. The presence of the Constitutional Council in a come-together of elites of the Nyong and So Division of the Central Region, known as Adenso. Magistrate Clement Atangana, whose position as head of the Constitutional Council warrants him to stay apolitical in every situation, was spotted in a meeting of Adenso, where the participants were drumming support for President Paul Biya's candidacy in next year's election. This sounds scandalous to all and sundry. Public opinions have been wondering how an association which members claim is apolitical end up clamoring and singing praises of a particular presidential candidate. The President of the Constitutional Council asked for a rejoinder from Equinoxe television after his presence at the Adenso meeting was described as incorrect by panelists on Equinoxe television, who are always vigilant about state affairs. Considering the quest for a rejoinder, several incoherencies could be highlighted. Besides political declarations being made in a so-called apolitical meeting, there are also questions on how possible it is to differentiate between the member of the Elite Association of the Nyong and So Division and the President of the Constitutional Council, an organ which should be neutral and impartial in every situation. Thus, any declaration made at the end of the meeting in Bamayo was with the consent of all its members. Another major preoccupation is why did the association wait for over 2 weeks before sending out reasons in court explaining the presence of the President of the Constitutional Council in such a meeting. Clement Atangana tries to explain that he left the meeting before the motion of support to Paul Biya was read. The question remains, is he a member of Adenso or not? Why wait for 2 weeks after the meeting was published by Cameroon Tribune, then relayed by Equinoxe television, to come up with explanations about his presence? The response is still in the air. And last but not the least, as highlighted above, why is the President of the Constitutional Council taking on Equinoxe television or the program Droit de Réponse? Why not ask for a rejoinder from Cameroon Tribune, which published the story in bold, mentioning clearly those present and demonstrating with pictures the conspicuous presence of the President of the Constitutional Council at the Adenso meeting in Bamayo? So many incoherencies which must be coherently put on how the Adenso meeting in Bamayo became what can be described as a political rally.
Staff Lady Annabella reporting there. And in the beginning was Cameroon Tribune with picture evidence. The National Daily revealed the presence of the President of the Constitutional Council, Clement Atangana, at an event whose participants paid tribute to the head of state, calling for his candidacy in next year's presidential election. Babla Jonathan has greater details.
Cameroon Tribune number 13,220 Wednesday, October 30, 2024. Page 21 highlights the gathering of elites of the Nous, division of the Central Region of Cameroon under the Divisional Development and Sociocultural Association, better known by its French language acronym, ADENSO, October 27, 2024. They gathered around their patriarchs, Delegate General for National Security, Martin Bargangele, and Constitutional Council President, Clement Atangana, to discuss the development of the area. Cameroon Tribune tells its readers that deliberations concluded on a motion of unflinching and unconditional support, faithfulness, and commitment to the head of state Paul Biya. In the motion of support read out by Professor André Ebale Omba, the elite and population of the Nous division called on President Paul Biya to stand as candidate in the 2025 presidential election on grounds of his achievements in the division and the nation at large.
Over to our human interest page, officials of the Littoral Judicial Police Unit have nabbed 7 alleged armed robbers. Reports reveal that they have been operating along the Veya-Puma-Yaoundé Highway on the National Road number 3, where they have been terrorizing road users. Ese Luciliengo now reports on their modus operandi.
Armed robbery attacks on the Edeya-Puma-Yaoundé stretch on the National Road number 3 has been gaining steam. Drivers and their vehicles have been the main targets of criminals, especially at night.
On a subi une agression après Puma, non loin de Puma.
A victim explains he was ambushed by alleged bandits few kilometers from Puma. The suspects used tire deflation devices to hold back the vehicles of their victims. And after that, they were asked to lie on the floor. The bandits, well armed, seized their valuable items. Complaints launched by victims enabled the officials of the Littoral Judicial Police to lay hands on 7 suspects.
Following multiple acts of robbery with firearms and edge weapons committed in the Edeya-Puma and Edeya-Puma axis, a police operation carried out in collaboration with the public security post of Puma led us to the arrest in the cities of Edeya-Puma, Yaoundé, and Kribi of 7 dangerous criminals. 2 of them were prison escapes.
Commissioner Esono Edu Hassan elaborates on their modus operandi.
Their modus operandi consisted essentially of assaulting users parked on the road, or they attach nails to a stick that they use as an arrow to pierce the wheels of the vehicles and force the drivers to stop before the occupant of the said vehicle were attacked.
Aged between 19 and 40, the alleged aggressors used locally made guns, machete, hammers, nails, and other items to threaten their victims. In order to curb this phenomenon, the forces of law and order call on maximum collaboration of the population.
And now to something else. Consumer organizations in Cameroon are denouncing what they qualify as extortion of Cameroonians by the company in charge of the distribution of electricity, Nous. They are denouncing unfair energy policies imposed on households. According to them, the new rates per kilowatt instituted by the company is very costly. Let's take a listen to some of them in this report compiled by Cedric Chakutio.
A week after the harmonization of the increase in the price of kilowatts per hour in Cameroon, consumer organizations are not giving up and continue to denounce an unfair energy policy imposed on households by the ARCEL regulatory agency and the company in charge of the distribution, Nous. We moved from 50 francs to 79 francs. And some households which have a low revenue, how do they do? We contest these optimizations that we find abnormal. Here, Nous only wants to have more entries to the detriment of the consumer.
Mais on ne peut pas harmoniser déjà les tarifs qui sont contestables dans les compteurs qui sont contestés et on parle d'harmonisation. Non, donc nous dénonçons donc cela.
Although a producer country, Cameroon is, according to energy experts, one of the African countries where the cost of the kilowatt remains the highest. It is proven by studies done by the World Bank that the price of kilowatt in Cameroon is higher than that of the kilowatt price in Africa.
Qui est de 70 francs CFA et au Cameroun la moyenne dépasse les 80 francs CFA.
These organizations are also planning to hold a sit-in protest against the harmonization of the increase in electricity prices in the coming day at the esplanade of NAO agency in Kumasi, Douala. We are going to protest and ask for a change because we find it abnormal what these structures are doing. They are only thinking of them and not the consumer. In our cell, it is indicated that the standardization aims, in addition to correcting the identified tariff differences and strengthening fairness. The measure aims to simplify the billing system and better meet the needs of consumers for both prepaid and postpaid matters.
Now to education. Pedagogic digitalization in Cameroon, as desired by the government of Cameroon, is being challenged by several factors on the ground. Despite the determination of school establishments in Cameroon to fully implement the unavoidable recommendation of going digital, the economic and social realities of the country are posing as major speed breaks. The city of Douala school establishments say their determination is being hampered by some parents, some students, and generalized hardship. We have details with Fomi Armstrong Sander.
From this primary school in Daido Douala to the government bilingual high school Bonaberi, an observation is outstanding. Pedagogic digitalization, as desired by the government of Cameroon, is a reality in schools across the city, but not without challenges. Among these challenges is how teachers get their assignments, information and lessons across to learners off-site when they are prohibited from using mobile telephones.
What's up? Groups have been organized with open up for each class, where parents of each class are put in their group alongside the teacher, the head teacher, and other administration. And this way we communicate directly with the parents in case of homework, in case of giving them any information concerning the school. Some get the information and do not react, but some, through that information, they are able to assist their children, especially in the light of national language and culture, where we give information for them to bring back to school so that it can enable us to teach this particular discipline.
This solution or approach is further confronted by parents who themselves do not have smartphones or are not available already to connect for their kids. This student, for example, says his father complains each time a message from his school enters his mobile telephone.
That is another difficulty, because you can't look at the student and know whether this one is lying or not, because you will not follow all of them to their homes. So we just take it from what they say. If they say their parents are not there, maybe a lazy student will say, my father does not have a phone, or my father or this. So sometimes in those forums, the teachers ask the questions. And at the end of every lesson, there's a list that the students write their names and sign. So we forward them to the forum so that their parents can see and know whether my child was there or not.
To cover these lapses and reach out to every parent or learner, schools in Douala say they make use of the database available in their well-furnished digital laboratories.
We have a database where we keep our lessons so that when they want to read it at home, they can copy it using a USB key and hard disk, mobile hard disk, something like that.
Despite the numerous challenges, these school establishments in the city say that pedagogic digitalization has come to stay and they are determined to get its perfection.
Still in education, over 1,500 absentee government school teachers have been summoned at the Ministry of Secondary Education in Yaoundé for justification. In reaction, some teachers expressed shock, stating that they have never been absent, yet their names appeared on the list of absentee teachers. Teachers trade unionists fume at poor decentralization in Cameroon, as teachers are compelled to travel at this crucial moment from far-off regions to Yaoundé, whereas they could be heard at the level of the regional delegation of secondary education. Innocent Azza reports on the situation of these teachers.
1,509 teachers of public schools are summoned to the Ministry of Secondary Education within 14 days to justify their absenteeism from their duty post. The press release of November 4, bearing this information, continues sparking reactions among teachers. Joya Dalato, teacher at Government Bilingual High School Kutaba in the West Region, was shocked to find his name on the list of absentee teachers. On the list, we see names of people who are never absent from their duty post, but present, like myself. I will respect the order of the minister to be in Yaoundé for justification. I have assembled all my proofs and set for the Yaoundé journey. What I wish to tell the minister is that such justification should be done before officials of the regional delegation of secondary education
soient capables de faire ce travail auprès des autorités régionales.
Teachers trade unionists fume at this decision, which shows decentralization is unreal in Cameroon. We denounce the fact that teachers leave their duty post in the West region to travel to Yaoundé to justify why they are absent from their duty post with the insecurity in some regions. It is very funny. Again, at the periods of semester exams, imagine teachers leaving the far north region to Yaoundé, where they will spend at least 2 weeks. It is a problem, and the decentralization itself.
Voilà, il y a un problème même de décentralisation qui se pose.
Teachers whose names are found on the list of the minister have until November 18 to answer present to the summon. Disciplinary sanctions have been reserved for any teacher who fails to show up.
Innocent Aze reporting there. Now talk something else. Transportation fare from Chang to Sanchu has witnessed an increase as a result of the blocked Chang road. Drivers say the distance covered has increased, thereby increasing their fuel consumption rate. Business activities around the Sanchu Park in Chang have equally noticed a significant drop. We have details with Smart Chikan Gabriel.
It is a quiet car park we met in Chang, with vehicles transporting people to either Sancho or Melon, all parked. The technical shutdown is due to the double landslide that occurred on the Chang Cliff. The park is dead and empty because of no passengers. Look at how the cars are parked. It is because there is no way for vehicles to move to Sancho. While hoping for a quick solution to open another deviation to help the situation, transportation fares have also noticed an increase. We even asked up to 5,000 francs CFA because when we leave from here, we head to Bafoussam. From Bafoussam, we go to Banjul before going down to Kekem, then taking the way to Sancho. From the Chang Motor Park to Bafang, we take 4,000 francs CFA. Chang to Melon is 1,500 francs CFA. This is so because on the stretch of road from Banjul, Batie, Bafang, the control is more than what we have on Chang Cliff. The fuel prices are high. A passenger who wants to go to Sancho is obliged to pay 5,000 francs. The landslide didn't only hinder the movement of vehicles, but has indirectly affected prices of some foodstuffs in the market. It is since the 5th of this month that our suffering started. Look at the stores, all shut down. Our vehicles to Sancho are all on standby. We can't even do anything. When you go to the market to buy something, the price has suddenly gone up. The Sancho Park is also mourning 3 of their colleagues who lost their lives due to the landslide. A team of experts are expected at the Chang Cliff to commence feasibility studies on how to create a deviation.
Smart Chikan Gable ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. In a country where multiple videos of torture and degrading treatment on citizens in detention centers have become rampant, a country where those who are expected to protect the population are sometimes the same people inflicting pain on their victims, there is an urgent need for human rights advocates, civil society actors to come together to denounce these happenings. Cameroon will appear before the Committee Against Torture in Geneva on November 13, 2024. Some of the stakes of this meeting is what we'll be discussing on in this edition of Talking Point. My guest tonight is Amadou Tante, Assistant Executive Secretary of Coalition of Civil Society Human Rights Organization for Peace in the Northwest, Southwest, and other affected regions. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Good evening, Immaculate. Once more, thank you for giving me this privilege to be guest on this very important program to enlighten Cameroonians on issues across that is happening within our country, Cameroon.
A high-level meeting or event aimed at underlining the commitment in upholding human dignity through the global fight against torture is taking place in Geneva, Switzerland. Some human rights defenders are currently taking part in the said meeting. From a human rights perspective, how will you rate this country as far as the respect of the United Nations anti-torture mechanism is concerned?
Let me say first of all here that Cameroon, the record of Cameroon on issue that has to do with torture is very, very disastrous, because for the past years we have documented so many cases of human rights violations that are being perpetrated in Cameroon in general, being perpetrated by the members of the Cameroon Defense and Security Forces on one side or the other. And most of this torture has often led to the loss of life for those that have been tortured, and so many other things, being in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon, as well as in other parts of the country. So the situation is very worrisome. And we, human rights organizations, have been working tirelessly to make sure that we document much of these cases. And some of our partners in Cameroon here, especially Mandela Center International, that I work in collaboration with them, we have submitted a lot of reports with regard to this on the United Nations, and Cameroon is going to answer with regard to that on this coming day, on the 13th of this month, before the committee in charge of, or the committee against torture.
A video of a Cameroonian artist known as Simon Lonkana, commonly known as Longe Longe, being tortured by security forces was published on social media. Other cases include that of journalist Martinez Zogo, journalist Samuel Wazizi, who unfortunately lost their lives while in detention centers. Should Cameroonians not be worried of the fact that the same organ expected to protect civilians is rather the one inflicting pain on the population?
Exactly, Immaculate, is really a worrisome situation, because it is unfortunate that the same organs that the security forces that are normally supposed to protect Cameroonians are the same people that are subjecting Cameroonians into such acts of torture, could be physical, moral, or psychological torture, because the tortures has been going on in so many different ways. Sometimes you see even people that are like maybe expressing their right to freedom of expression, or for those that are right to peaceful protests, and they are being subjected to all kinds of funny things and other likes. So it's very worrisome, and this is a serious call for concern. The government of Cameroon need to address this issue properly. And I think one of the major worries that is leading to this alarming nature of human rights violation or acts of torture is because of impunity. Because most of these defense and security forces are not arrested and prosecuted as per the law. And in regards to that, again, some of these people, or most of these defense and security forces, they seem as if they have little knowledge with regard to the issue of human rights. Most of them need to undergo proper training on human rights, so that they can have deep knowledge of what human rights is all about, to be able to protect human rights properly. And another reason is because of this issue of Cameroon, because some of this torture seems to be happening based on high instruction, because we realize that most of these people that are tortured, they are tortured by the commandant or whatsoever, due to instruction from the hierarchy. Because last time there was another scenario that happened early this year in Yaoundé, where we documented the cases, and it was later on that we realized that it was a high-ranking personality or military official at the National Gendarmerie that called the commander of a certain Gendarmerie brigade to arrest somebody and correct a person according to him, because he was saying that the person has disrespected him. So in the course of that torture, the guy died. So most of these things are done on high instruction, but it's very regrettable to know that we should know that even order, according to the United Nations Convention Against Torture, even order from a superior authority cannot in any way justify torture, because torture is prohibited, and there is no reason for any act of subjecting any human being to any act of torture or inhuman treatment.
The court case pitting Martinez Zogo has been going on for over a year in Cameroon. His family members, Cameroonians, and even the international community have for long now been expecting that those who killed him pay for their crime. Should we be worried about the efficiency of our justice system?
Of course, Immaculate, the issue of inefficiency with regard to the justice system in Cameroon is really a call for concern, because we know very well that there is the first problem, as I keep saying, that one of the major problems we have in Cameroon here is that there's the first one, they say there's lack of separation of power. Even at the level of the judiciary, they don't allow them to do their work efficiently. That's the reason why last time we heard from the Minister of Justice, who was like calling attention of some of the magistrates or those that are working in collaboration with him to make sure that they don't yield to that issue of high instruction, because there is no separation of power, and most often things that are happening within some of this area they are coming, as I said, coming from high instruction, which is in one way or the other violating the law, it will be the international law as well as the national laws in the country. And the delays in court proceedings is another way of denying, obviously, to tell us that the justice will obviously be denied, because often say that when justice is delayed, obviously justice is denied because there's no reason or justification for delaying a court case in such extent. And that's the reason why we always at the end we have like what we call a sham justice. The justice will not be justice that would proper justice might not be rendered to the deceased, because that has often been the case in Cameroon here, because of this issue of either the control of the judiciary being controlled by the executive, or maybe sometimes some of these some of those that are perpetrated the acts are like the present case of Martinez Zogo. We know that there's a very long link between those that committed the act and the Federal Security Force that are those that were directly involved in that act of torture, and other high personalities that are concerned. So each time when an incident as such come on, we have that as linked with connection to those that are on high position. They always take a lot of time to delay for the one way or the other, just to frustrate the situation. And that's more reason why there's availability of even the United Nations, that when we realize the matter, we know that the court case is either delaying in such a way that you end up not having justice. That's the reason, some of the reasons that we have to force some of these cases to the International Committee Against Torture to look into the situation, because they know very well that when the court case is like delayed as such, there's very possibility that we will not have justice with regard to the court case.
And as a human rights defender, on a scale of 20, how do you rate Cameroon as far as the respect of human rights is concerned?
Well, on a scale of 20, I think I can rate Cameroon as say 7 to 8 on 20, because at least I cannot say that the government is bad or the authority is bad in all sense, because in some instances the government has already been trying to do certain things to protect human rights, even though it's very small. That is why we keep on telling them that, appreciating at least what the government have done, while saying like that is good, but we need more, because we realize that there are some cases with regard to our partner. We work in collaboration with some of our partners, as I said here, Mandela Center International, that we have often called the attention of the government of Cameroon to regard to such cases of torture, and at the end the government, to make sure that some of those people are arrested. Like there was a scenario here that happened in the commissariat in Daidu last year. We went to the center, we documented, when the family documented the case, submitted it, and later on the matter went to court, and even the two members of the police forces that were involved in that act, they are currently at the New prison. So the government has been doing a lot of things with regard to that, but even though it's not enough, there are some of those cases that are going on unpunished. So that's why we keep saying that at least the government need to do much to face or end impunity, because I know, and I'll keep insisting that one of the major reasons why there is high rate of human rights violation, be it torture or whatsoever act of human rights violation, is because of this issue of impunity. Because when a member of the defense and security forces kills somebody, and the government the authority concerned doesn't carry out proper investigation to make sure that the person is prosecuted as such, it will encourage other people or other members of the defense and security forces to keep on doing the same thing, knowing very well that they might be protected as well by like the previous people who did the same thing and were protected too. So that's the main reason why the government need to at least facilitate things in such a way that the people will have free access to justice, and everything will go. Nobody who commit any act of human rights violation or torture or whatsoever should go unpunished. Once they are punished, I believe that the situation will move forward. At least the human rights situation of Cameroon might be better.
Now we take this last question. The northwest and southwest regions have become major epicenters where acts of torture are orchestrated. These acts are either committed by the military or separatist fighters. What can be done to change the narrative in these conflict regions?
Well, to change the narrative on this issue of in conflict region and region of Cameroon, well, let me first of all here that even at the beginning of the ongoing armed conflict in northern and southern region of Cameroon, the rate of human rights violation was very high. But I think due to our advocacy, the advocacy of human rights defenders, other human rights organizations who are working on the ground, as well as some of the initiatives that have been taken by the government and other international organizations, or even some of those on the ground, in fact, there has been a reduction in the rate of human rights violation in northern and southern region of Cameroon. Like the case between 2008, 2009, 2020, and the situation today. So this has been due to the work of human rights defenders, the work of the government in collaboration and any other things. So I think that the government need to like keep training even the members of the federal security forces, train them very well to have better knowledge on what human rights is all about, especially within the conflict region. Because there are a lot of things that are happening that, although going unpunished, there are a lot of things that funny things that the military are doing that is not right at all. Because with regard to the military in particular, let me say here that in many we have documented so many cases where members of Cameroon Defense Forces will arrest or maybe somebody who is accused of being a separatist. Even if the person is a separatist or not, they have to respect the international convention, the international international laws, the international humanitarian laws, by making sure that they take the person to a place where they will investigate the person properly to actually know whether the person is a separatist or not. Even if the person is a separatist or not, the person doesn't deserve to be killed. Because just of recent in Bamenda, last week there was a case of somebody who was killed, and according to our investigation on the ground, we realized that the guy was an ex-separatist fighter. It is true that he never joined the DDR center as was alleged by what the government created. He decided to stay him in the quarter. He was living in the quarter and he was well known in the quarter. The defense and security forces came to that quarter, carried out the raid, and discovered that guy had a link with separatists. They took him and went with him, detained him for almost 1 week. And about 1 week after, they only met his corpse on the street at Mulang. So that's just to tell you that they don't respect human activities or international laws, because we are in a state of law or a state of war in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon, and they need to respect the Geneva Convention to ensure that there is proper respect of human rights. So we have so many cases have been recorded as such, and that's the main reason why I keep saying that when they do this such kind of thing, the government needs to enlighten them, train them, so that they should know what to call they should know first of all that they are in a state of they are in the war situation. They know what is supposed to be done and what is not supposed to be done. And same thing with the separatists. They will continuously to call on the attention of the separatists to make sure that they stop torturing civilians, because they don't know very well that they cannot be fighting, say you are fighting to protect somebody, and at the same time you are subjecting the person to such acts of torture on inhuman treatment or killing them. Because about 2 weeks ago, for example, there was a case of a young nurse who was equally killed in a Bambalang village in Kongsvinger division, northwest region of Cameroon, by separatists. He was tortured to death by separatists, and under allegation that he was dating whether the girlfriend or the wife of a separatist. So we need to enlighten them to make sure that they need to, whatsoever be the case, they don't need to kill somebody. When somebody does something that is not right, at least there are ways of correcting somebody without killing the person. Because the worst thing you can do on earth is to take away the life of another person. So the government, as I said, will end impunity, because each time something as such happens, when you see a communique, the SEO or the DO will tell us that they have open investigation. I will just end there. I will never hear anything about that as such. It's still as if the communique sometimes is only to amaze or to calm down those who are clamoring that there should be justice for those that are the victims of whatsoever crime that has been committed. So government need to end impunity. Once the government end impunity and ensure that those that are involved in act of human rights violation are arrested and prosecuted, I think it will limit the rate of human rights violation in northwest and south region of Cameroon in particular, and in the entire Cameroon as large. With regard to the end, I think an inclusive and sincere dialogue, we have been singing this on daily basis, is the only way out. That is the best way of solving the human rights situation or the human rights violation and abuses in the northwest and south region of Cameroon. It can only end the conflict, because even if it is checked, whatsoever means or by any impunity, as I said, it will only reduce. But the best way to let it to rest is by having an inclusive and sincere dialogue with all the stakeholders that will sit down on a dialogue table and discuss a possible way out, because I believe that's the only way we can have a genuine solution to the problem. Because we all know very well that the military option that the government have took since the beginning of this conflict has failed completely.
Amadou Tante, human rights defender, thank you so much for your time. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always choosing Equinoxe Television. Have a wonderful evening in the company of more interesting programs. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing. Bye-bye for now.